All right, today we're jumping into a real giant of literature, Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. Now, this is a huge book, I know, but it really boils down to three things: a murder, a trial, and one very dangerous idea. An idea that asks, what if there's no God? And that question is powerful enough to absolutely tear a family apart.
So this is it. This is the question the entire story is built around. You can think of it like a philosophical bomb that just goes off right in the middle of this family. And believe me, the shockwaves hit every single character. We're not just talking about some dusty old theological debate here. This gets to the heart of everything. Can morality even exist if there's no divine rulebook?
And that's where all this big, abstract philosophy crashes head-on into some pretty brutal reality. Because at its core, this book is a high-stakes murder mystery. You've got a victim that, frankly, everyone wanted dead, and his three sons are the main suspects. So yeah, it's not just some family drama. It's more like a courtroom where the very idea of good and evil is on trial. Okay, let's get into it. To really get a handle on this crime, you have to start with the victim. And let me tell you, he is, well, to put it mildly, one of the most disgusting characters you'll ever read about. Let's meet the patriarch, Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov. So, Fyodor, he isn't just a bad dad. He's a complete buffoon, a drunk, a total creep, and a swindler. This is a guy who basically made it his life's mission to ruin his own kids, both emotionally and financially. I mean, he is so hated by everyone that when he's murdered, literally no one is surprised. The only question that sets the whole town on fire is, who finally did it? You know, with a victim like Fyodor, you'd think the suspect list would be a mile long, but it narrows down pretty fast to the three people who had the most to gain from his death: his own sons. And you're about to see, these three guys could not be more different. Okay, and this is where things get really brilliant. Dostoevsky sets up the three brothers to basically represent the whole spectrum of what it means to be human. First, you've got Dmitri, the oldest. He's all body, all passion, all instinct. Then you have Ivan, the super smart, intellectual. He's the mind, pure reason. And finally, there's Alyosha, the youngest, a sweet guy training to be a monk. He's the spirit, all about faith. So you have the body, the mind, and the spirit, and each one of them has a very unique and, frankly, dangerous link to their father's murder. So let's start with Dmitri. He is suspect number one, and for very good reason. The guy is totally impulsive, can get violent, and he makes zero secret about how much he hates his dad. He literally goes around town threatening to kill him, partly over money, but even more so because they are both obsessed with the same woman, Grushenka. He's basically a walking powder keg, just looking for a spark. But here's the thing. The actual physical murder, it's kind of overshadowed by a deeper, more intellectual crime. And that is where the second brother, Ivan, comes in. He's the family's brilliant, tormented philosopher. This quote really gets to the core of what's eating Ivan alive. See, he's not just some simple atheist. He is absolutely tortured by all the evil in the world, especially the suffering of innocent children. He just can't wrap his head around how a loving, all-powerful God could create a world where a little kid can be torn apart by dogs. He's saying, I reject this whole divine plan if that's the price of admission. And out of all that despair, Ivan comes up with this incredibly dangerous idea. His logic goes something like this. If there's no God and no afterlife, well then there's no ultimate reward or punishment, right? So things like good and evil aren't real, they're just things we made up. And if that's true, he concludes, then everything is lawful. Now, he really dives into what this terrifying freedom means in a story he tells his brother, the religious one, Alyosha. It's honestly a masterpiece tucked right inside the novel. The setup is wild. Jesus comes back to Earth, right in the middle of the Spanish Inquisition. And what happens? He gets arrested and thrown in jail by a powerful church official, the Grand Inquisitor. So the Inquisitor basically sits Jesus down and tells him, you got it all wrong. Humanity doesn't want the crushing burden of free will you gave them. He argues that people are just too weak. What they really crave is security, not freedom. They want miracle, mystery, and authority. They want their faith proven for them. They want someone to tell them what to do, and they want to be fed. And, the Inquisitor claims, the church has fixed Christ's mistake by taking away that freedom in order to make people feel safe and happy. All right, so with that philosophical bomb just sitting there, ready to go off, the story swings back to the courtroom for the big climax, Dmitri's trial. And this is where all those abstract questions about God and morality are gonna get decided. by a jury. And, on the surface, the case against Dmitri looks pretty airtight. He had the motive, money in the woman. He had the opportunity. He was even seen running from the scene covered in blood. The whole courtroom just turns into this huge battleground, not just for Dmitri's life, but for the soul of Russia itself. It's like they're asking, is this who we are? A nation of wild, passionate impulses? Or is there something else going on here? So the prosecution's argument is simple. They paint Dmitri as this classic Karamazov type, a guy ruled by his passions who would absolutely kill for love or money. But his defense attorney comes up with this really fascinating counter-argument. He says, look, yeah, the guy's reckless, but he's way too noble for some sneaky, grubby murder. He claims the whole case is built on psychology, which he calls a knife that cuts both ways, meaning you can use the exact same evidence to argue he's guilty or that he's innocent. It all depends on how you read his character. So the jury makes its decision. But Dostoevsky, being Dostoevsky, he shows us that what happens in the courtroom isn't the real truth. And the reality of it all is much, much more disturbing. Because it turns out the killer confesses, and it wasn't Dmitri. It was the unacknowledged fourth son, Smerdyakov. Now, Smerdyakov is Fyodor's illegitimate kid, and he was raised as a servant in the house. He's this cold, resentful, and weirdly intelligent guy who's been quietly soaking up all of Ivan's philosophical talks. And when Smerdyakov finally confesses to Ivan, he says this absolutely bone-chilling line. He basically says, I was just the instrument. I was the hands that did the killing. You were the real murderer. And right there, bam, the novel's entire central idea just explodes. Smerdyakov lays it all out for Ivan. He says, I was listening when you said that without God, everything is lawful. He took Ivan's big, abstract, intellectual idea and he made it real, and terrifyingly real. I mean, if good and evil aren't real, why not kill the old man you hate and steal his money? In a twisted way, Smerdyakov was just Ivan's best and most logical student. And this is the consequence. Legally, Ivan is innocent. He wasn't even there. But he is forced to look at the bloody, monstrous outcome of his own philosophy, of his own intellectual pride. And that weight, the moral guilt, it's unbearable. It completely shatters his mind, and he just descends into madness. So the book doesn't really give us a nice, neat answer. Instead, it leaves us wrestling with this really haunting question. Who's actually responsible when an idea leads to murder? Is it the person who physically does the deed, or is it the person who loaded the gun, so to speak, with the philosophy? It's a question that makes you think about the responsibility that comes with ideas and forces us to wonder where our own beliefs might lead if we followed them all the way to the end.